Business Skills 360, the podcast that looks at the other side of business English. Hello, and welcome back to Business Skills 360. I'm Tim Simmons, and I'm glad you could join me for today's show on networking. Okay, back to networking. Now, I'm not going to tell you how to connect computers. This is about business networking, talking to people, making connections. And today we're going to discuss goal setting in networking events. You need to go into these events with a clear objective so that you can make good use of the opportunity. We set goals for everything else, so why not networking? First off, what do I mean by networking event? Perhaps it's a mixer for all business people in your community, or maybe it's a conference where you have the chance to meet people in your field. These are important opportunities, and it is important that you use your time wisely. The fact is, at many networking events, 75% of the people stand around waiting for the other 25% to make something happen. It's important for you to be in that 25% group. Be proactive. You can't just stand in the corner and expect everyone to walk across the room to introduce themselves. So, to be an active and successful networker, it's a very good idea to set goals before the event. What kind of goals? We'll talk about issue-based goals and human-based goals. Let's start with issues. Before the event, sit down and give some thought to your current situation. What issues are you currently dealing with in your business or work? Are you facing specific problems or obstacles that you need help with? Do you have certain needs? Write these things down, then rank them in order of importance. For example, your list might say, Number 1, our project meetings lack focus. Number 2, our computer servers are unreliable. And number 3, my department is spending too much on office supplies. Great. It's good to have a top 3. Too many, and you'll lose focus. Now, keep your top 3 issues in mind as you head into the networking event. Remember, the goal of your networking is to solve these problems, get help solving them, or simply get some ideas about how to deal with them. You may not meet someone who can actually solve these, but you may meet someone who has encountered them before. Steer the conversation toward these issues. They may help you get over that awkward situation in which you've introduced yourself and aren't sure what more to talk about. You can say something like, So, you folks do a lot of project work. How do you find your meetings? Or, what kind of servers do you run in there? Now, let's think about human-based goals. The purpose of networking is, of course, to build a human network. You talk to people, and your network grows. You talk to more people, and your network grows even more. That's great. But if your purpose heading into a networking event is very general, like talking to people, then how do you know whether you've been successful? Setting specific goals will help you get more done and measure your success, especially if you feel you're not very good at networking. Put numbers to your goals. Set targets, just as you might for sales or other important business basics. For example, perhaps you decide that you will make 3 soft contacts and 1 excellent contact. Or maybe you decide to tell 5 people about your company's new product. Or maybe you aim simply to pass out 10 business cards. Whatever the specific goal is, it will help you focus your efforts. Chatting for 30 minutes about baseball with a former coworker may qualify as talking to people, but it's not necessarily the best use of your networking time. Right. That's all for today. Happy networking. And don't forget to tune in next week when we'll have a look at network maintenance. Fascinating stuff. Bye for now. Business Skills 360, the podcast that looks at the other side of business English. Hi, everyone. I'm Tim Simmons, and you're listening to Business Skills 360. Glad you could join me today for the second part of our look at networking skills. Today also marks the start of our back-to-school sale on Business English Pod. Just head over to the website at www.businessenglishpod.com. In this episode, I'm going to focus on what I'll call network maintenance, or how to make sure your network is healthy, organized, and effective. You see, passing out business cards is not enough. I can spend all week attending events and talking to people and manage to hand out 200 business cards, but still not have a healthy and effective network. To do that, you need to maintain your network. You need to take care of it and reinforce its connections. You need to work your network. Just how can we do that? Glad you asked. One of the first things you can do is to keep track of your network on paper or electronically. Take notes on your contacts. Record more than just phone numbers and email addresses. Write down interesting business-related information, like current projects or past accomplishments. Also write down non-work information, things about family or personal interests. These things may come in very handy in the future when you talk with this contact again. Consider the difference between, "Oh, hello, Greg, right? Where do you work again?" And, "Oh, hello, Greg. I hope the furniture biz is treating you well. And by the way, how is your daughter adjusting to her new career?" Another important part of network maintenance is following up on conversations. You meet someone, you exchange cards, and you have a brief chat. Great. A couple of days later, you should send this new contact a brief email message just to say it was a pleasure talking. Mention something specific that you talked about just to help the person remember. Connections that are not reinforced will die. A brief follow-up after first meeting is a great way to increase the chance that your connection will survive. Reinforcing your network even further means working your connections regularly. Don't be afraid to call on people for help. If you're faced with a difficult issue, look through your network to see if anyone can help. It might just mean placing a call for 5 minutes of advice. No problem. Every conversation will make weak contacts stronger. Remind people you exist. Check in regularly. If you hear a piece of news that you think someone might find interesting, pass it on. Show that you're an active contact, and people will do the same in return. Also, remember that we're talking about healthy and effective networks, not healthy and effective relationships. What's the difference? Well, you may have a few dozen good business relationships, but if none of those people ever become connected, then it's not really a network. Every relationship is simply the connection point between two people's vast networks, and you should take every opportunity to connect other people through you. Here's an example. You have a business associate named Nancy who needs to hire a new bookkeeper. You meet someone at a networking event named Joe who tells you he had to lay off several people in his accounting department. What do? You connect Nancy and Joe. Doing this strengthens your relationship with both people and puts 2 favors in the bank, one with Nancy and one with Joe. Doing this strengthens your relationship with both people and puts 2 favors in the bank, one with Nancy and one with Joe. You need to learn to view people as nodes in a network, not as isolated individuals. When you meet someone, Don't think only of what he or she might be able to do for you. Think of what everyone in his or her network might be able to do. Good contacts are the ones that have good networks. A person who has an unhealthy network, or no network at all, is a dead-end contact. And remember, other people are evaluating you as a contact. Show that you are a good one. Don't be a dead end. Great stuff. That wraps up our look at networking. If you'd like to learn more from today's lesson and test yourself, have a look at the mybeonline.com website. There, you'll find discussion questions, some vocab, a quiz, and a complete transcript of this episode. Thanks for listening, and see you again soon.
You're listening to Business English Pod, the business English podcast for professionals on the move. Today's episode is the first in a two-part series on the basics of social English, starting a conversation, keeping it going, and finishing it appropriately. Successful conversation is an important part of networking, the skill of building up a network of contacts and relationships. In this episode, you'll be learning skills in language for starting and finishing a conversation appropriately. In the next, you'll practice how to keep a conversation going. Today's listening takes place at the Asia Pacific HR Conference for Multifresh, a major global producer of health beverages. A beverage is a drink. You'll hear two dialogues. In the first, Penny, an HR officer from Malaysia, strikes up a conversation with George, the Asia Pacific Learning and Development Manager. To strike up a conversation means to start a conversation, usually with someone you don't know too well. In the second dialogue, Pat, an HR officer from Australia, then tries his best to strike up a conversation. Now, here are the listening questions. First, what office is Penny from? 2. What does Penny think about the speech? 3. Have Pat and George already met? And 4. Does George have time to talk to Pat?
Excuse me, Mr. Chow?
Yes.
We haven't met. I'm Penny Lin from Kuala Lumpur office.
Ah, yes.
It's great to finally meet you.
It's good to meet you too.
So, interesting speech, wasn't it?
Yes. Looks like we have a few challenges ahead.
Long time no see.
Yes, hi.
George, you're George Chow from the Singapore office, right?
Yes.
We met last year when you visited Australia.
Oh, of course. Yes, that's right. I remember chatting with you over coffee. And your name was?
Pat McCarthy.
Yeah. Good to see you again, Pat.
Yes, it's been a while. So, which floor are you staying on?
Up on the 12th. Great view up there. You?
I'm on the 3rd, right within striking distance of the bar.
Gosh, is that the time? Sorry, Pat. I just have to make a quick phone call. It was nice running into you.
Oh, yes, of course. See you around.
Yeah, see you later.
So, it looks like Penny's attempt to strike up a conversation with George was much more successful than Pat's, wasn't it? We can say that Penny and George hit it off, which means that they seem like they are going to get along well with each other. Let's first look at dialogue 1. How does Penny start the conversation with George?
Excuse me, Mr. Chow?
Yes.
We haven't met. I'm Penny Lin from Kuala Lumpur office.
This is one easy way to begin a conversation with someone you recognize but haven't met or don't know very well. What are some other ways?
You're Mr. Barnes, aren't you? Hi, my name's Sally.
Excuse me, aren't you Baxter Gordon? Wow, it's great to finally get the chance to meet you. I've heard a lot about you.
You must be Monica Childs. You have no idea how great it is to finally meet you. What a wonderful surprise.
But what if you don't know somebody at all and you just want to walk up and introduce yourself? Conferences, parties, dinners, all sorts of networking events present you with chances to meet people you don't know.
We haven't met. I'm Lynn Jacobs. What's your name?
I don't think we've met. My name is Abdullah.
Hello, my name's Josh. What's yours?
Of course, if you already know someone, you can just say, "Hello again, nice to see you again," or "Long time no see," as Pat says to George in Dialogue 2. After Penny has struck up a conversation with George and they've made their introductions, "Nice to finally meet you. Good to meet you too." What does Penny say next to get the conversation going?
So, interesting speech, wasn't it?
Yes. Looks like we have a few challenges ahead.
Penny is using a tag question, a question ending with "isn't it?" "Wasn't it?" "Aren't they?" "Weren't they?" "Don't you think so?" And so on. This type of question is ideal for starting conversations because it gives your partner an easy chance to respond. Let's look at some more typical tag questions you can use.
Horrible weather, isn't it?
Great hotel, isn't it?
A beautiful day, isn't it?
Great game, wasn't it?
Splendid program, don't you think?
The food here is really great, isn't it?
Amazing team, aren't they?
It's been a long day, hasn't it?
Can you think of any more good tag questions? I'm sure you can. Tag questions give you a great way to get the conversation going. Of course, you don't just network at formal social events, such as parties or dinners. Many everyday situations provide you opportunities to meet new people. Waiting in the hotel lobby, standing in line, working out in the gym, having a cocktail in a bar. Sometimes we skip over the greeting and move straight to the tag question, don't we?
Great game, isn't it?
Yes, amazing.
I don't think we've met. My name's Ronald. What's yours?
I'm Cindy.
In addition to tag questions, there are a variety of great WH questions, which are who, what, where, when, why, and how questions. These you can use to get the conversation going.
Where are you staying?
How long have you been in Singapore?
How was your flight?
Is this your first time here?
What do you think of the food?
When did you arrive?
So far, so good. You've studied how to open a conversation with various kinds of greetings and how to get one started by asking tag questions. Now, let's look at more skills in Dialogue 2. What do you do when you don't remember someone's name? And how do you end a conversation politely? Remember, Pat greets George in a very friendly fashion with "Long time no see." This signals to George that Pat already knows him. But George doesn't seem to remember Pat very well, does he? So how does he handle this?
George, you're George Chow from the Singapore office, right?
Yes.
We met last year when you visited Australia.
Oh, of course. Yes, that's right. I remember chatting with you over coffee. And your name was?
Pat McCarthy.
Yeah. Good to see you again, Pat.
Of course, if you don't remember somebody's name, a good thing to do is to mention where you met them or some specific time that you remember chatting with them. Or perhaps some detail of what you talked about. Recalling details makes not remembering their name seem less rude. What are some other ways to do this?
Ah, yes, of course. You and I met at the trade fair in Venice last year. You're a big Juventus fan, right?
You know, I remember talking with you about the new marketing strategy last month, but your name has just slipped my tongue.
It just slipped my tongue is an idiom that means you temporarily can't think of someone or something. So it's an extra polite way to say you've forgotten someone's name. So George does a pretty good job of dealing with not remembering Pat's name, doesn't he? Well, what happens next? Pat tries to make a little bit of small talk about which floor they're staying on. Pat is staying on the 3rd floor, right within striking distance of the bar. To strike means to hit or attack. To be within striking distance of something is an idiomatic expression that means you're close to something. You can say that you're within striking distance of a target or goal. For example, now that we're within striking distance of the sales target, we need to keep our efforts up and work even harder. Now, let's have a look at the end of the dialogue. Does George have time to talk to Pat? Doesn't seem so.
Gosh, is that the time? Sorry, Pat. I just have to make a quick phone call. It was nice running into you.
Oh, yes, of course. See you around.
Yeah, see you later.
So how does George finish the conversation politely? Gosh is an informal expression of emotion. Most people consider it very clean. It comes from changing the D at the end of God to SH. Even cleaner, and perhaps more formal, is oh dear, or oh my goodness. So, gosh, is that the time? Means George is surprised by how late it is. Then he makes an excuse for finishing the conversation suddenly. He has to make a phone call. What are some other ways to do this?
Well, I'm afraid I'll have to be going. It's been nice talking to you.
Would you excuse me for a moment?
Oh dear. If you'll excuse me, I must just go and check on something.
Will you excuse me? There's something I have to attend to.
That just about does it for today's show. But before we finish today, we'd like to give you a chance to practice yourself. Imagine you are at the HR conference with George. You haven't met him yet, but you'd like to. Start the conversation by saying, "Excuse me, you're George, aren't you?" Wait for him to respond, then introduce yourself and ask him a tag question about the weather. Are you ready?
Yes? Oh, nice to meet you. Yes, I agree. Is this your first trip to Singapore?
Now, let's listen to a possible answer.
Excuse me, you're George, aren't you?
Yes?
We haven't met. I'm Jo from London.
Oh, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Beautiful weather today, isn't it?
Yes, I agree. Is this your first trip to Singapore?
Good. Now, imagine you have to leave. Make an excuse to finish the conversation politely.
That's all right. Hope to see you later.
How did you do? Let's listen to an example answer.
Oh dear, will you excuse me? There's something I have to attend to.
That's all right. Hope to see you later.
Great. So that's all for today's show. You've learned some great ways to get a conversation going and what to do if you forget somebody's name. You've also practiced how to finish a conversation politely. In this two-part series, you'll be studying ways to keep the conversation going after you've started it. See you next time. You're listening to Business English Pod, the Business English podcast for professionals on the move. Welcome back again to Business English Pod. Today is the second in a two-part series on the basics of networking. In our last episode, you learned ways to start and finish a conversation appropriately. Today, you'll be studying how to keep a conversation going by maintaining interest. Today's listening continues Dialogue 1 from our last episode. As you'll remember, it takes place at the Asia Pacific HR Conference for Multifresh, a global producer of health beverages. Penny, an HR officer from Kuala Lumpur, has struck up a conversation with George, the Regional Learning and Development Manager. Where we left off last time, Penny had just used a tag question. Interesting speech, wasn't it? To help get the conversation started. Now, let's listen to how she maintains interest to keep the discussion going. As you listen, try to answer the following questions. First, near the beginning of the dialogue, Penny changes the subject. What was the old subject and what is the new subject? 2. Where has Penny seen George before? 3. What is George's hobby? 4. What does George mean when he says, "It's not really such a big deal"? And last, is Penny going to join George in next year's event?
Interesting speech, wasn't it?
Yes. Looks like we have a few challenges ahead.
Speaking of challenges,
Uh-huh.
was that you I saw in the talent showcase yesterday?
Yes, I'm afraid it was.
Did you really run a marathon?
I sure did. Nearly killed me.
What was it like?
Well, it was tough. I trained for a year.
A year? Did you really? That's a long time. How about the actual marathon? How did that feel?
Well, towards the end, I thought I was gonna die.
You poor thing.
It's not really such a big deal. Lots of people run marathons.
Yeah, I'd like to give it a try someday.
You should. Why don't you sign up for next year's event?
It certainly seems as though George and Penny are hitting it off, doesn't it? Remember, to hit it off means to get along. Penny is doing a good job of keeping the conversation going. After using a tag question to get the discussion started, interesting speech, wasn't it? She skillfully changes the subject to something of more interest to George.
Interesting speech, wasn't it?
Yes. Looks like we have a few challenges ahead.
Speaking of challenges,
Uh-huh.
was that you I saw in the talent showcase yesterday?
As we've seen in BEP 39, reporting, and BEP 42, opening meetings, speaking of is a way of directing the conversation. It connects to what was just mentioned in order to bring up a new topic. George has just mentioned challenges. Penny says, speaking of challenges, to bring up a different kind of challenge, George's marathon. What does she mean by talent showcase? Showcase can be a noun or a verb. To showcase your talent means to display it or put it on show. For team building, it sounds like Multidrinks has probably created a presentation or a video showcasing staff hobbies and talents. Now, let's practice more ways to direct the discussion. You'll hear a series of short dialogues. As you listen, pay attention to the key phrase used in each dialogue to change the topic.
So, I try to get out to a club once a week to listen to some live music.
That reminds me, haven't I heard somewhere that you play piano?
Yes. How did you know?
Basically, lower taxes are not always better for business.
While we're on the subject of taxes, what do you think about the new tax on beer and wine?
It's been busy, 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 busy. No rest for me at all.
So I understand you are getting a promotion. Congratulations.
Yes, how did you know? Thank you.
Lovely weather, isn't it?
Yes, beautiful.
By the way, you haven't heard anything about this new training program that they're starting in Europe, have you?
So then, she actually told the boss that she thought he was a big, dumb idiot, right to his face.
That's too funny. Speaking of stupid things to say, you should have heard what Jackie said to Mike the other day.
And in my free time, I like to cook.
What kind of food?
Oh, lots of kinds, but I really like Italian food.
Funny you should say that, because Italian's my favorite too.
Really? Do you like to cook too?
Did you hear the key phrase used in each dialogue to change the topic? Let's listen again to just these key phrases.
That reminds me, haven't I heard somewhere that you play piano?
While we're on the subject of taxes, what do you think about the tax on beer and wine?
By the way, you haven't heard anything about the new training program that they're starting in Europe, have you?
Speaking of stupid things to say, you should have heard what Jackie said to Mike the other day.
Funny you should say that, because Italian is my favorite too.
Now, you try. Imagine you're speaking to George. He's talking about his business trip to Beijing. Use this chance to ask him whether he's planning on going to the 2008 Olympics.
So, after 2 days in Shanghai, we flew to Beijing.
How did you do? Listen to a possible answer.
So, after 2 days in Shanghai, we flew to Beijing.
Speaking of Beijing, how about the 2008 Olympics? Are you planning on going?
Good. So we've looked at the language Penny uses to direct the discussion to something more interesting for George. Now, how do Penny and George keep the conversation going? Throughout the dialogue, they use several active listening strategies. Let's look at these one by one.
Speaking of challenges,
Saying "uh-huh" is a simple way to show attention. Of course, each language has its own sounds and expressions for showing attention. To make people feel comfortable and to make your English sound more fluent, it's important to use the expressions that native speakers typically use. Let's practice some basic sounds for showing attention.
Right.
Sure. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
yes. Yeah. Uh-huh.
How does that feel? If you're not already used to making these sounds, uh-huh, yeah, it can feel pretty strange. But using them a lot when you speak is one of the most basic ways to maintain interest in a conversation. There are also many other ways. As the dialogue continues, how does Penny show active interest in what George is saying?
Did you really run a marathon?
I sure did. Nearly killed me.
What was it like?
What was it like? Is one of the best questions you can ask to keep a conversation going. As an open question, that just means, how was it? Tell me something about it. This gives your partner a lot of freedom to respond.
Well, it was tough. I trained for a year.
A year? Did you really? That's a long time. How about the actual marathon? How did that feel?
Here, Penny uses several strategies. She echoes the word year. Echo means to say again. After using the echo word a year, she uses an echo question. Did you really? Then she finishes with an open-ended question. How did that feel? Each of these techniques is good used on its own. They are also often used in combination, as you'll hear now in some examples. First, an echo word, then an echo question, then an open-ended WH question.
I went to Bali last week.
Bali, did you really? What was it like?
Serena's getting married.
Married? Is she really? When?
We had 10,000 sales last month.
10,000? Did we really? What's the total amount?
In addition to these strategies, Penny has one more great way to keep the discussion going.
How about the actual marathon? How did that feel?
Well, towards the end, I thought I was going to die.
You poor thing.
It's not really such a big deal. Lots of people run marathons.
You poor thing is a personal comment. Reacting personally is another important way to maintain interest by listening actively. In this case, Penny is showing sympathy or empathy with George. What does George mean by, "It's not really such a big deal"? This is an idiom meaning that something is not extraordinary. It doesn't deserve a lot of attention. George is being modest about his marathon. What other types of personal reactions can you make? There are many. You can show interest.
Really?
How about that?
That sounds interesting.
Surprise.
No way.
You're kidding me.
No.
That's strange.
Good heavens.
Dude.
The last one, dude, is an informal American expression of surprise. Dude is also used as an informal form of address, usually among friends. You can also react to something that is not surprising.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a surprise.
Typical.
I'm not surprised.
It's always that way, isn't it?
Here are some ways to show pleasure.
Really?
Fantastic.
Great.
Wonderful.
Terrific.
Agreement.
Exactly.
Of course.
Sure.
Or, as we've seen, sympathy.
How awful.
What a pity.
Poor you.
Now it's your turn to practice. Imagine you're talking to Penny. Listen to what she has to say, then react appropriately by showing interest.
I can't believe it. The weather report said it's going to be 40 degrees tomorrow.
Now, listen to a possible answer.
I can't believe it. The weather report said it's going to be 40 degrees tomorrow.
40 degrees? Did it really? No way. How long is it going to last?
Now try with George. Listen to what he says, then show interest appropriately.
Sandra lost her new Nokia cell phone.
Listen to a possible answer.
Sandra lost her new Nokia cell phone.
Her new Nokia? Did she really? How awful. Where did it happen?
Well, that about does it for today's show. You've practiced many ways of directing the conversation and keeping it going, including changing the topic and showing active interest. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. You're listening to Business English Pod, the business English podcast for professionals on the move. This is the fourth in a series of intermediate podcasts that focus on business travel. In this series, we're following a group of trainees who work for the telecommunications company Ambient as they visit their head office in Michigan in the U.S. How do you make friendly chat with your colleagues? What kinds of topics can you talk about? We'll be looking at some answers. In particular, we'll be studying how to chat about movies. Because almost everyone loves to go to the cinema, movies are always a good topic for small talk. As our listening begins, it's Monday morning. Ernesto, a trainee from the Philippines, says hello to his American colleague Brenda as she comes into the office. As you listen, try to answer these questions. The answers will be posted in a few days at www.businessenglishpod.com. 1. What does Brenda mean when she says veg out? 2. What are critics and what do they think about Rush Hour 3? And 3. How does Brenda like her coffee?
Hey, how you doing?
Fine for a Monday. How about you?
Great. Get up to anything exciting on the weekend?
Come again?
Did you do anything exciting over the weekend?
No, not really. Mostly vegged out at home.
Vegged out?
Relaxed. Like a vegetable.
Oh, I get it.
I did get out to see a movie, though.
Really? What did you see?
Rush Hour 3. It was actually pretty killer. Much better than the second one.
Awesome. What kind of movie is it?
You've never heard of Rush Hour 3? You're kidding me. They're like action comedies. The last one came out like 6 years ago.
Who plays the lead?
It stars Jackie Chan as a Chinese inspector and Chris Tucker as an old cop.
Oh, Jackie Chan. I think I've heard of it. What's the plot?
There's not much of a plot. Basically, Jackie Chan and Tucker's characters team up to beat up the bad guys.
Where does it take place?
It starts in America, but it's mostly set in France.
Yeah? And how does it end?
I don't want to give it away. You should see it for yourself.
Maybe I will. What did the critics say?
The critics didn't pan it, but they're not raving either. They say Jackie's getting tired. He's 53, you know.
Yeah, that's getting up there. But I hear he does all his own stunts.
Totally. He's great. Apparently, it's a box office hit, too. So obviously, other people agree. It grossed $41 million in the first weekend alone.
Wow, that's pretty good. Get you a cup of coffee?
That would be great. Thanks.
Cream and sugar?
No cream, but some equal if they have it.
The first thing you notice about Ernesto and Brenda is that their language is quite informal, so they obviously already know each other. Ernesto starts their conversation with an informal greeting.
Hey, how you doing?
Fine for a Monday. How about you?
Great.
Saying ya instead of you sounds more casual. Also, Ernesto changes the sound to in doin'. This also sounds more informal. Similarly, Brenda melts her words together in an informal style. Instead of pronouncing carefully, how about you, she just says, how about you? What does Brenda mean by fine for a Monday? She means, considering it's a Monday, which is nobody's favorite day, I'm doing fine. How you doing is one kind of informal greeting. What are some others?
How you doing?
What's up?
Hey, dude, how's it going?
Morning, mate. You look like you could use a cup of coffee.
Hi, Sandy. How was the traffic this morning?
How do you respond to these greetings? After "How you doing?" you can say "Great" or "Not bad. How about you?" or "How about yourself?" After "What's up?" we usually say "Not much. You?" What happens next?
Get up to anything exciting on the weekend?
Come again?
Did you do anything exciting over the weekend?
The first time, Ernesto uses a typically British English expression. Get up to anything on the weekend? When Brenda doesn't understand, he uses an American expression. Did you do anything exciting over the weekend? He could also have said, what did you do over the weekend? How does Brenda respond?
No, not really. Mostly vegged out at home.
Vegged out?
Relaxed, like a vegetable.
Oh, I get it.
To veg out is a slang expression. Veg is short for vegetable. As Brenda says, veg out means to relax. It usually refers to doing something that requires no mental effort, like watching TV. Imagine yourself sitting on the couch like a vegetable. But Brenda didn't only just veg out at home. She also got out of the house. What did she do?
I did get out to see a movie, though.
Really? What did you see?
Rush Hour 3. It was actually pretty killer. Much better than the second one.
Killer is an informal American slang expression that means good or cool. How does Ernesto respond?
Awesome.
Awesome is another case of informal slang. It means great. Ernesto is just acknowledging that he's listening to Brenda and encouraging her to continue talking. He guides the conversation with a question.
What kind of movie is it?
This is a way of asking about the genre or type of movie. What are some common ways of asking or responding to questions about genre?
What kind of show is it?
It's a comedy.
It's a sci-fi story.
It's a horror film.
It's an action movie.
It's a romantic comedy.
Sci-fi refers to science fiction, stories about the future. Other genres are romances or westerns. What kind of movie is Rush Hour 3?
You've never heard of Rush Hour 3? You're kidding me. They're like action comedies. The last one came out like 6 years ago.
Notice the use of like. This is a common informal use of oral English. She's not sure exactly what genre the Rush Hour movies belong to, so she says, they're like action comedies. Ernesto does a good job of keeping the conversation going. What's the next question?
It stars Jackie Chan as a Chinese inspector and Chris Tucker as an old cop.
The lead means the starring role. In this case, there are two stars, Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker. What are some other ways to ask about actors or stars?
Who plays the main role?
Who's in it?
Who's starring in it?
Sean Connery's in it. He plays a retired spy.
It stars Kevin Spacey as a man in a midlife crisis.
How does Ernesto react when he hears the movie stars Jackie Chan?
Oh, Jackie Chan. I think I've heard of it. What's the plot?
There's not much of a plot. Basically, Jackie Chan and Tucker's characters team up to beat up the bad guys.
Keeping the conversation going, Ernesto's next question is about the plot, or the story. He says, what's the plot? How else could he have asked this question? And what could you say in reply?
What's it about?
What happens in it?
What's the plot?
Tell me about the story.
It's about two young people who fall in love on a doomed ship.
It's about a meteor that's going to destroy the Earth.
The next logical question for Ernesto to ask is about the setting, or where the film takes place.
Where does it take place?
It starts in America, but it's mostly set in France.
There are many other ways to ask and respond to this question.
When does it take place?
Where does it take place?
It's set in New York in the 60s.
It takes place on Mars in the future.
It takes place in a prison.
Of course, another typical question we can ask about movies is about the climax, or how it ends. Climax just means the high point, or the most exciting point of the movie. When Ernesto asks, how does it end? What does Brenda say?
I don't want to give it away. You should see it for yourself.
To give something away means to reveal something. Brenda means that if she tells Ernesto how the movie ends, it won't be exciting when he watches it himself. Here are some other ways to ask and respond to questions about the climax of a movie.
How does it end?
What happens in the end?
In the end, the ring is destroyed.
In the end, Harry decides he really loves Sally.
A further small talk question that we can use in a discussion about a movie is to talk about how the critics responded. Critics are professional film watchers who write reviews for magazines or newspapers.
What did the critics say?
The critics didn't pan it, but they're not raving either. They say Jackie's getting tired. He's 53, you know.
Yeah, that's getting up there. But I hear he does all his own stunts.
To pan a movie is to say that it was really, really bad. On the other hand, to rave about a film refers to praising it very highly, saying that it was very, very good. How about Jackie Chan's age? Ernesto agrees with Brenda that Jackie is getting older. That's getting up there means Jackie's age is getting high. But he still does his own stunts. Stunts refers to the dangerous actions in a movie that stars usually have other people do for them, called stunt doubles. There are many other ways to talk about reviews of a film. Let's listen to a few.
What did the critics say?
What kind of reviews did it get?
The critics panned it.
The critics raved about it.
It got great reviews.
It got lousy reviews.
Lousy means really bad. Finally, how does the dialogue finish off? Brenda agrees that Jackie Chan is remarkable because he does all of his own stunts.
Totally. He's great. Apparently, it's a box office hit, too. So obviously, other people agree. It grossed 41 million in the first weekend alone.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Here, totally is another informal American expression. Used this way, it signals agreement. Box office means ticket office, and hit means success. So a box office hit is a movie that sold a lot of tickets. At the end of the dialogue, Ernesto offers to get Brenda a cup of coffee. How does she like it?
Get you a cup of coffee?
That would be great. Thanks.
Cream and sugar?
No cream, but some equal if they have it.
Brenda doesn't take cream and sugar in her coffee. Instead, she prefers equal, which is a sugar substitute with no calories. Now it's your turn to practice some of the expressions we've learned today. Imagine you're coming into the office on a Monday morning, like Brenda. Your colleague will greet you. Respond appropriately. After each exercise, you'll hear an example answer.
Good morning. How you doing? Fine. Get up to anything on the weekend? Answer. Good morning. How you doing?
Not bad. How about yourself?
Fine. Get up to anything on the weekend?
No, I just vegged out. You?
Hi, what's up? Okay. Do anything exciting over the weekend?
Answer.
Hi, what's up?
Not much. Yourself?
Okay. Do anything exciting over the weekend?
I saw Rush Hour 3. How about you?
How did you do? Rewind and practice again. As usual, substituting different phrases will help you build fluency. Remember that the answers are just examples. There are many possible ways to respond. That's all for this episode. We've studied informal greetings for chit-chat in the office and looked at a typical situation where they're used, in the morning when you just come into work. In addition, we've learned how to chat about movies, which is a favorite small talk topic. We've also looked at some great informal slang expressions, such as totally, killer, and vegged out. Be sure to check out the online learning center at www.businessenglishpod.com. There are plenty of further practice activities there as well. Also, don't miss the study notes for this and other episodes. There, you'll find full transcripts, vocabulary, and exercises. Thanks for listening. Take care. Want to get more out of Business English Pod? Then go to www.businessenglishpod.com and sign up as a premium member. Premium members can access detailed study notes and the new Phrasecast to practice all the useful language we featured today. You're listening to Business English Pod, the business English podcast for professionals on the move. Hello again, and welcome back to Business English Pod. This is the second in a three-part series that follows some of the internal discussions that take place in a company going through a merger. Today's episode focuses on casual office conversation and gossip. Office gossip is a type of informal conversation in which we tell secrets or rumors about other people or other departments. Gossip is often called water cooler chit-chat, since the water cooler is where colleagues meet by chance and discuss things that are happening in the office. You might also want to review some of our previous shows on socializing for more language to use in these types of conversations. For the listening today, we rejoin Jack at the guitar manufacturer headquarters after his short but difficult chat with his boss, Jim. Jack is in the cafeteria when a coworker meets him there by chance. As you listen, see if you can answer the following questions. The answers will be posted on our website in a few days. First, what did Francis hear from Joanna? Second, who did Michelle take off with? And third, where does Francis tell Jack she has to go?
Hey, Jack, what are you doing here in the cafeteria all by yourself? And why the long face?
Nothing. Just the usual BS.
Oh, I saw you go into the Donald's office a little while ago, and I heard that they've been talking about doubling production in Costa Rica.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I was talking to Joanna, and she tells me that they're saying that you were spending too much money on salaries.
Sorry, Fran, I'm going to have to take a pass. Jim said it was on a need-to-know basis, and I don't think you need to know.
Well then, I guess you don't need to know where Michelle and I are going out for drinks tonight, do you?
What? You're talking to Michelle again? I thought she was in the doghouse since she took off with Tony.
Whatever, he was just a thing. Michelle's cool. So, what's going on? Cough it up.
Well, let's just say you'd better start learning Chinese.
They're closing down and moving the company to China?
Whoa, I didn't say that.
Well, then spill the beans. What did he tell you?
Well, according to Jim, the management here wasn't planning to change anything, but...
So the rumors are true? We got bought out? I knew it!
Hey, where are you going?
I gotta go. I got a logistics meeting.
Yeah, right. Hey, not a word, eh?
Hey, Joanna, you're never gonna believe what Jack just told me.
Well, the secret's out now, isn't it? How many people will Francis tell? We'll have to see in the next episode. But let's look at the language they used during this informal conversation. Francis and Jack meet in the cafeteria where a lot of water cooler chit-chat happens. So, how does she start the conversation?
Hey, Jack, what are you doing here in the cafeteria all by yourself? And why the long face?
Nothing. Just the usual BS.
Francis uses two very common water cooler phrases to start it off. Instead of saying, "Hi, Jack," she says, "Hey, Jack," which is more familiar, and then, "What's going on?" This is usually understood as a conversation starter and not as a serious question. The usual answer is "not much" or "nothing much," and then, "How about you?" Here are some other standard conversation starters and responses.
Hey, what's happening?
Same old stuff.
Hey, how you doing?
Oh, all right. How about you?
Hi, Laura. Have you been?
Oh, can't complain. How you been?
However, in this case, Francis notices that Jack is alone and has a long face, which means an unhappy expression on his face. A sad face is longer than a happy smiling face. So, she starts probing to find out if there is an interesting story behind his sad face. However, Jack gives a "not much" type of answer to her question and adds that there is just the normal BS, which is a street slang word for rubbish or garbage. But Fran keeps trying.
Oh, I saw you go into the Donald's office a little while ago, and I heard that they've been talking about doubling production in Costa Rica.
The Donald is a slang reference to Donald Trump, who is famous around the world for being a very difficult boss. So, difficult bosses are often called the Donald by their employees. Francis is trying to get Jack to confirm or deny a rumor she has just heard. A rumor is a piece of unofficial information which is spread informally and which may or may not be true. In rumors, we often use reported speech, which is how we tell people things that other people have said. Here are some other ways to introduce reported speech.
Somebody told me that you were the new department manager.
HR said that the project would be canceled.
Erica tells me that we're going to have to work weekends.
Notice that when we report what someone has said, the verb tenses often change. Present simple changes to past simple. Present perfect changes to past perfect. Past simple changes to past perfect. And will changes to would. Here are examples of these changes. In each case, you'll hear a person making a statement, and then you'll hear another person reporting this statement.
They are at the restaurant.
He said they were at the restaurant.
They have finished lunch.
He said they had finished lunch.
They found a taxi.
He said they found a taxi.
They'll be here in an hour.
He said they would be here in an hour.
We can start the meeting.
He said we could start the meeting.
We may finish late.
She said we might finish late.
Note the other changes, such as can changes to could, and may changes to might. Now let's return to the listening. Frances has been probing, but Jack continues to tell her nothing.
Spending too much money on salaries.
Sorry,
and...
Fran, I'm going to have to take a pass. Jim said it was on a need-to-know basis, and I don't think you need to know.
To take a pass is to politely tell someone that you're not going to say anything or participate in something. And he explains that it's on a need-to-know basis, that is, a secret that only certain people need to know. But she then puts a bit of personal pressure on him, since she knows that he wants to be more than just her colleague.
Well then, I guess you don't need to know where Michelle and I are going out for drinks tonight, do you?
What? You're talking to Michelle again? I thought she was in the doghouse since she took off with Tony.
Whatever, he was just a thing. Michelle's cool. So, what's going on? Cough it up.
To be in the doghouse is to be in big trouble with a friend or a spouse. A doghouse is a little box outside where the dog sleeps, and where husbands often have to sleep when their wives throw them out of the house. Jack thought that Michelle was in the doghouse because she took off with or ran away with Frances's boyfriend. However, she answers that the boyfriend was just a thing, meaning a temporary relationship, and that Michelle was a cool or fun person. She then demands that he cough it up, meaning tell her everything. Here are some other ways to ask someone to tell you some gossip.
Come on, spill the beans.
Hey, what's the scoop?
So, what's the story?
Now, Jack tries to be clever. He tries to tell her just a little bit of the truth, just enough that she'll invite him to go have drinks after work.
Well, let's just say you'd better start learning Chinese.
He says, let's just say, which means he's giving just a part of some information. Here are some other ways to introduce just a little bit of information or a summary.
The bottom line is that
I would say that...
The gist of it is...
what I can say is...
But Frances is a little more clever and understands some of what he's hinting at. To hint at is to give a little piece of information about a secret subject.
They're closing down and moving the company to China?
Whoa, I didn't say that.
Now, he's told her much more than what he wanted to, and wants to deny that he said anything, but it's too late. She probes once more, and Jack again makes the same mistake.
Well, then spill the beans. What did he tell you?
Well, according to Jim, the management here wasn't planning to change anything, but...
So the rumors are true? We got bought out? I knew it!
Frances now has what she thinks is highly interesting gossip to pass on to her social network, and waste no time in getting away to do just that.
Hey, Joanna, you're never going to believe what Jack just told me.
When she tells Joanna that she will never believe what Jack has said, she means that she has amazing news. Here are some other ways to introduce highly interesting or important news.
Guess what I just heard?
Did you hear about...
This is unbelievable, but...
You won't believe this, but...
And now it's time for you to practice the techniques we discussed. In a moment, you'll hear an informal greeting. In the pause after each greeting, answer with an appropriate response.
Hey, what's going on?
Hi, how you doing?
Hey, good to see you. What's new?
How'd you do? Here are some example answers.
Hey, what's going on?
Answer. Not much. How about you?
Hi, how you doing?
Answer. Pretty good. How about yourself?
Hey, good to see you. What's new?
Answer. Not much. How you doing?
Of course, there are many possible responses, and you might try rewinding to practice responding using different language. Next, let's practice reported speech. In a moment, you'll hear a person's name and a statement. In the pause that follows, you will then report what this person said. Are you ready? Let's give it a go.
Jose, the clients are staying at the Hilton Hotel.
Natasha, the shipping department spent too much money.
Could you put the statements into the reported speech format? Remember, there are many possible ways to phrase your sentences, but here are some examples.
Jose, the clients are staying at the Hilton Hotel.
Answer. Jose told me that the clients were staying at the Hilton Hotel.
Natasha, the shipping department spent too much money.
Answer. I heard from Natasha that the shipping department spent too much money.
And that about covers it for today's show. We looked at many different types of language techniques, including office gossip, reported speech, and introducing interesting news. All these should be part of your language toolbox that you'll be able to use at appropriate times during your various business conversations. So stay tuned for a future episode when we'll hear where the rumor goes after their bit of gossip and if Jack has a future with the company. In the meantime, keep practicing and take care. Want to get more out of Business English Pod? Then go to www.businessenglishpod.com and sign up as a premium member. Premium members can access detailed study notes and the new Phrasecast to practice all the useful language we featured today. You're listening to Business English Pod, the Business English podcast for professionals on the move. In many countries, having a drink after work with colleagues is a popular way to relax. This kind of socializing helps us to get to know each other and to build team spirit. To attract customers who are just getting off work, many bars and clubs have a happy hour. This is a promotion in the early evening, usually lasting an hour or so, when pubs and bars offer special prices on drinks, such as buy one, get one free, or all drinks half price. In this episode, we'll explore language that we can use to socialize with colleagues during happy hour or during other informal occasions. Whether you drink alcohol or not, in many places around the world, you'll likely be invited to the bar or pub with colleagues. It's important to know how to offer to buy drinks for others and how to make polite excuses when you've had enough or when it's time to go. The same skills are also useful for other types of after-work social activities. In the dialogue, we join Greg, a manager, and 3 people on his team, Joanna, Gary, and Ben, as they order. While you listen, see if you can answer the following questions. As usual, the answers will be posted in a few days on our website. First, who is paying for the first round of drinks? How can you tell? Second, who is the person who doesn't drink? And finally, when it's time for her to go, what excuse does Joanna make?
Hi, what can I get for you folks?
This one's on me.
Awesome.
Thanks, Greg.
Well, what are you guys having? Joanna?
Thanks. Just a tonic with a twist of lime for me, please.
Tonic with a twist of lime. Got that.
You don't drink?
I like a glass of wine once in a while, but I'd better not. I'm meeting up with some friends later.
Okay. Ben?
I'll have a beer.
What would you like, sir?
Take whatever on tap.
We have Carlsberg, Stella, and Guinness.
Stella, please.
Same for me.
Okay, 2 Stellas.
Gary, what would you like?
I'd like a pina colada.
A pina colada? You've got to be kidding me.
Look, mister, just because you don't appreciate a real cocktail doesn't mean I can't order one.
You got that?
Yep, 2 Stellas, a tonic, 1 pina colada. Coming right up.
One more pina colada, please. Those are delicious.
Yeah, easy there, Captain. That's your 5th.
Yeah. Loosen up, boss. It's Friday. So, as I was saying, Joe, after I left the Army, I spent 6 years in Central America
Gary?
working in the oil industry, which is where I...
Gary!
Yes?
Sorry to interrupt you. Really, it's fascinating, but I'll have to hear about it another time. I've got to meet my friends. Thanks, Greg. Guys, see you later.
Okay, cheers.
Cheers.
See you later.
See ya.
Wow, partner. Kinda looks like you struck out there.
What are you talking about? Where's that pina colada?
It sounds like Joanna has escaped just in time, doesn't it? Now, let's go through the dialogue together to review key language. How does the dialogue begin? The bartender and Greg ask what everybody would like to order. Remember, a bartender is a waiter who serves you drinks at a bar. Greg offers to pay for the first round by saying, "This one's on me."
Hi, what can I get for you folks?
This one's on me.
Awesome.
Thanks, Greg.
Well, what are you guys having? Joanna? You folks is an informal second-person plural form of address used in the United States. You can also say you all, or, as Greg does, you guys. We can say you guys even when we're talking to a group of men and women. But remember, this is informal talk. Gals, on the other hand, is used to refer just to women. What are some other ways to ask what people would like?
What can I get for you folks?
What are you guys having?
Steve, what would you like?
What are you having?
What would you like? This one's on me.
I'm getting this. What would you like?
I'm getting this is another way to offer to pay for everybody. What happens next in the dialogue?
Thanks. Just a tonic with a twist of lime for me, please.
Tonic with a twist of lime. Got that.
A twist of lime means just a few drops of lime juice. Joanna is ordering a non-alcoholic drink.
You don't drink?
I like a glass of wine once in a while, but I'd better not. I'm meeting up with some friends later.
Gary has put pressure on Joanna by saying, "You don't drink?" Which means, "You don't drink alcohol?" Joanna responds by refusing with a polite excuse. Let's listen to some other ways we can do this. If you don't drink, you can say,
Thank you very much, but I don't drink.
if someone puts pressure on you, you might say this.
It's very kind of you, but I really must say no. Alcohol doesn't agree with me.
If you do drink, there are many excuses you can use.
Thanks. That's kind of you. But I'd really better not today.
Thanks, but I'd better not because I'm driving tonight.
I like a drink every now and again, but I have a lot to do when I get home tonight, so I'd better hold off this time.
Thanks. I'd love to, but not tonight. I've got an early morning tomorrow.
What do Ben and Greg order? They both have beers on tap. Beer on tap refers to fresh beer from a big barrel called a keg, which is a type of large round container. How about Gary? He orders a cocktail, or a mixed drink. Gary, what would you like?
I'd like a pina colada.
A pina colada? You've got to be kidding me.
Look, mister, just because you don't appreciate a real cocktail doesn't mean I can't order one.
A pina colada is a cocktail made from coconut flavor, pineapple, and rum. Ben is teasing Gary for ordering a cocktail instead of a beer. Gary teases Ben right back by formally addressing him as Mr. in an informal situation. This shows that Gary is being sarcastic. Being sarcastic, or sarcasm, is a form of humor in which one says the opposite of what one means, or in which one pretends to be angry or happy when one really isn't. The joke that Gary uses, just because you don't appreciate a real cocktail doesn't mean I can't order one, is a common structure for sarcastic humor. Let's listen to a few more examples of this kind of joke.
Just because you're working overtime tomorrow doesn't mean the rest of us can't enjoy a few drinks.
Just because your team never wins a game doesn't mean the rest of us have to feel miserable.
Just because you're God's gift to golfing doesn't mean the rest of us can't enjoy a game sometimes.
After Gary orders his pina colada, Greg confirms the order with the bartender.
You got that? Yep, 2 Stellas, a tonic, 1 pina colada, coming right up.
Coming right up means right away. Now, here are some more ways to confirm.
Got all that?
Did you get all that?
Have you got all that?
The dialogue fades out, and some time passes. 4 pina coladas later, that is, after Gary has drunk his 4th pina colada, the dialogue fades back in. What happens next?
One more pina colada, please. Those are delicious.
Yeah, easy there, Captain. That's your 5th.
Yeah. Loosen up, boss. It's Friday.
Greg calls Gary a captain, but since Greg is actually the boss, this is another sarcastic form of address. Easy there means take it easy, that is, slow down. But Gary tells Greg to loosen up. He thinks Greg is being too tight or strict. What happens next? Gary is telling his life story to Joanna.
After I left the Army, I spent 6 years in Central America
Gary?
working in the oil industry, which is where I...
Gary!
Yes?
Sorry to interrupt you. Really, it's fascinating, but I'll have to hear about it another time. I've got to meet my friends. Thanks, Greg. Guys, see you later.
Here, Joanna makes a polite excuse to go. Her excuse has 4 parts. First, interrupt. Second, make a positive comment. Third, present the excuse. And finally, say thank you and goodbye. Let's listen to some more examples for each part of this useful structure. First, interrupt if necessary.
Sorry, guys.
John, sorry to interrupt.
Chris, Pat, sorry to butt in here.
Then, make a positive comment.
It was really great seeing everybody.
I really had a great time.
It was fun hanging out.
To hang out with people means to spend time socially with them. Next, present your excuse.
But I've got to get home.
I've got an early morning tomorrow.
I have to tuck in my kids.
I have to pick up my wife at the train station.
To tuck in your kids means to put them to bed. To have an early morning means you have to get up early. Finally, remember to thank everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thanks for a lovely time. Have fun, everybody.
Thanks. See you tomorrow.
Thanks again for a lovely evening. Hope to see you all soon. Goodbye.
Note that Joanna was careful to mention her excuse
at the beginning of the evening, so now all she has to do is remind everyone. How does the dialogue finish? Okay, cheers.
Cheers.
See you later.
See ya.
Wow, partner. Kind of looks like you struck out there.
What are you talking about? Where's that pina colada?
Partner is another form of address. It's often used sarcastically. To strike out is a baseball idiom. It means to fail. It's often used to describe the game of romance. Ben is using this idiom to tease Gary for failing to get Joanna's interest. Now it's your turn to practice. Imagine that you joined some friends at the bar for an after-work drink during happy hour. But now it's later, time to go home. According to the cues, make a polite excuse. Remember to follow the four-part structure. For example, if you hear the cue, pick my friend up at the train station, you can say, "Excuse me, everybody, I had a great time, but I've got to pick my friend up at the train station." Thanks for a great time. Have fun, everybody. Are you ready? Each time after you've given it a try, you will hear an example answer.
Get up early tomorrow morning.
Answer. Sorry, guys. I had a great time, but I've got an early morning tomorrow. Thanks. Have fun.
Put kids to bed.
Answer. Sorry to interrupt. Thanks for a lovely evening, everybody, but I have got to go home and tuck my kids in. Have a great time. See you tomorrow.
Finish a report.
Answer. Sorry to butt in here. It was really great seeing everyone, but I've got to finish a report for tomorrow or the boss is going to kill me. Take care. Bye.
How did you do? When you go back to practice again, try substituting different language to build up fluency. That's about all for this episode. We studied a wide range of expressions useful for socializing with colleagues after work, including offering to pay, politely refusing a drink, making jokes, and politely excusing yourself at the end of the night. We've also covered a lot of useful idioms and vocabulary. Be sure to check out the online exercises at www.businessenglishpod.com for this and other episodes. Remember, if you do drink, do it safely. Take care and see you again soon at www.businessenglishpod.com. Thanks for listening.
Want to get more out of Business English Pod? Then go to www.businessenglishpod.com and sign up as a premium member. Premium members can access detailed study notes and the new Phrasecast to practice all the useful language we featured today. You're listening to Business English Pod, the business English podcast for professionals on the move.
They say there's one rule of conversation that you should always follow in business. Don't talk about politics, sex, or religion. Actually, however, it seems like 90% of casual conversations are about just those things: politics, sex, and religion. So, in this episode, we'll be focusing on one of these topics, politics. We'll be learning some language that will help you cope with this difficult topic. There's a trick to talking about politics in business. In international business culture, it's usually better not to have a strong opinion. The focus is generally on the exchange of information rather than on debate, because the main goal is to maintain harmonious relations. Often, we state our opinions non-committally, That means we don't commit ourselves to an opinion. In other words, we don't voice a strong view one way or the other. Instead, we prefer to be vague or ambiguous. This strategy helps avoid conflict. So, in this episode, in addition to covering some general phrases and vocabulary for discussing politics, we'll be studying how to soften your questions and be non-committal when necessary. We'll be listening to Ricardo and Lars, old colleagues who have met each other again at an international conference. They're talking about the political situations in their home countries, Brazil and Denmark. As you listen, try to answer the following questions. The answers will be posted in a few days at www.businessenglishpod.com. First, Ricardo says he has heard that the Danish government is pretty far right, that is, conservative. But Lars seems to think that this has a good side. What is it? Second, Lars mentions that Brazil has won its bid to host the World Cup. Ricardo says that Brazil has a lot of work to do in which areas. And finally, Lars talks about a certain kind of problem that has cropped up, that is, appeared or occurred during Brazilian President Lula's presidency. What is it?
I'm a bit out of touch, but if you don't mind me asking, what's the political situation like now in Denmark?
How do you mean?
Well, I've heard your government's pretty far right, isn't it?
For Denmark, anyway. But at least they're trying to reduce taxes.
Reduce taxes? That sounds like a good thing.
Yeah, well, of course it depends on your point of view. Anyway, it's pretty popular with business.
I bet.
So how about Brazil? I just heard your bid for the 2014 World Cup was successful.
Yes, we're really excited about that. But we have a lot to do on infrastructure and security.
It's been a long time since you hosted one, hasn't it?
Yep. 64 years. Can you believe that?
Wow, so long. So, what do you think about Lula's performance overall? What about the corruption scandals that seem to be cropping up?
Well, the World Cup is a distraction from that. And you know, his social policies are very popular with the majority. But with all the conflicting interests in our country, he's got a lot to juggle.
Don't we all?
Yeah, tell me about it.
Lars and Ricardo are not the only ones to break the rule never to talk about politics. Actually, it's quite a common topic of conversation. And if you handle it well, this kind of discussion can be a great way to build relationships while making small talk and socializing. Both Lars and Ricardo are skillful in their approach to maintaining harmony in the discussion. For example, they are careful not to ask direct questions or voice strong opinions. Let's go through the dialogue to study what they do in detail. How does it begin?
I'm a bit out of touch, but if you don't mind me asking, what's the political situation like now in Denmark?
Ricardo starts by asking a general question. I'm a bit out of touch is an idiom that means you're not familiar with the current situation. Notice, Ricardo is careful to soften the question, make it less direct, by using a buffer. If you don't mind me asking. Next, Lars clarifies.
How do you mean?
Well, I've heard your government's pretty far right, isn't it?
What are some other ways to ask about politics, including softening phrases?
I normally don't talk about politics, but I've been reading a lot in the newspapers about your new president.
We've been hearing a lot in the news about your healthcare policy.
If you don't mind me asking, what's the political situation in your country?
If it's okay to ask, what are your feelings about the monetary policy in your country?
In the last example phrase, monetary policy just means money policy. So, Ricardo has just asked Lars if the Danish government is pretty far right. that is, politically conservative. How does Lars respond?
For Denmark, anyway. But at least they're trying to reduce taxes.
It is for Denmark means it is right for Denmark, or because Denmark is overall very far left or liberal, this government seems very far right or conservative. There are many possible ways to respond to questions about politics. Let's listen to a few.
To be honest, there's quite a range of feelings on that issue.
These days, people are more worried about the economy than politics.
We have a liberal government at the moment. They are trying to push through more social programs.
We have a conservative government. They are trying to cut red tape.
Red tape is a good phrase to know. It means bureaucracy. In 17th and 18th century Britain and other places, official government documents were wrapped in red tape. To cut the red tape means to reduce bureaucracy, that is, to get rid of unnecessary official procedures. How does Ricardo respond to Lars's statement that the Danish government is cutting taxes?
Reduce taxes. That sounds like a good thing.
Here, Ricardo is using an excellent strategy for maintaining interest in the conversation, one that we studied before in BEP 45, keeping the conversation going. First, he acknowledges what Lars said. Then he echoes it back. Reduce taxes. And finally, adds a personal comment. That sounds like a good thing. Listen to some more examples of some personal comments that we can make to sustain interest in a conversation.
I see. That's really interesting.
Fascinating.
I'm not surprised.
I know what you mean.
No, you must be joking. That's incredible.
Wow, I had no idea.
I had no idea means that's very surprising. How does Lars react to Ricardo's personal comment that reducing taxes sounds like a good thing? He's rather non-committal.
Yeah, well, of course it depends on your point of view. Anyway, it's pretty popular with business.
It depends on your point of view is a typical useful non-committal or vague statement. In this case, Lars appears to be avoiding expressing a strong opinion. Avoiding the expression of a strong opinion is one reason to use non-committal language. We can also use non-committal statements to express polite disagreement. What are some other useful non-committal phrases?
It's hard to say.
I'm of two minds about that issue.
Honestly, there are many ways to look at it.
We have a lot of people in both camps. The important thing is that we can talk it all out.
So Lars has just said that reducing taxes is pretty popular with business. How does Ricardo respond? He says, I bet, which is an informal way of expressing agreement. It means, I bet that's true. Let's listen to some more great advanced phrases for expressing agreement idiomatically.
I bet.
That's what I would imagine.
You can say that again.
I hear you.
Tell me about it.
Now it's Lars's turn to ask Ricardo a question.
So how about Brazil? I just heard your bid for the 2014 World Cup was successful.
Yes, we're really excited about that. But we have a lot to do on infrastructure and security.
There is a lot of useful vocabulary here. Lars says Brazil's bid or proposal to host the World Cup was successful. Host is the opposite of guest. In this case, used as a verb, to host, It means to provide the facilities and resources for an event, the World Cup. Infrastructure refers to roads, facilities, electricity, and so on. All the basic structures that make modern life possible. We often talk about developing or building up infrastructure. Next, when Lars mentions that it's been a long time since Brazil has hosted a World Cup, Ricardo responds by using another good strategy for maintaining interest.
It's been a long time since you hosted one, hasn't it?
Yep. 64 years. Can you believe that?
Can you believe that? Is a kind of tag question that will help keep the conversation going. Let's listen to a few more tag questions that you can use in a similar way.
Isn't that amazing?
Do you know what I mean?
Fantastic, isn't it?
Hard to believe, isn't it?
In the next part of the dialogue, Lars uses a personal comment to express surprise that it's been 64 years since Brazil hosted a World Cup. He says, "Wow, that long?" Then he indicates a change of topic with, "So."
Wow, so long. So, what do you think about Lula's performance overall? What about the corruption scandals that seem to be cropping up?
Problems have been cropping up, that is, appearing or occurring, in Brazilian President Lula's presidency. These problems are corruption scandals. Corruption is when bad officials or employees take money illegally to provide favors. A scandal is a bad event that attracts a lot of attention. How does Ricardo respond to Lars's question about corruption scandals?
Well, the World Cup is a distraction from that. And you know, his social policies are very popular with the majority. But with all the conflicting interests in our country, he's got a lot to juggle.
Ricardo says Lula's social policies, welfare, healthcare, and so on, are popular with the majority, that is, with most people. What does Ricardo mean by conflicting interests? In this case, he's talking about economic or political interests. For example, rich and poor people, conservatives and liberals, often have very different conflicting interests. Because of these conflicting interests, the president has a lot to juggle. Juggling means keeping 3 or more balls or objects continuously in the air by throwing them up and catching them. It's difficult not to drop any of the balls. So, to have a lot to juggle means to have a lot of different conflicting priorities or tasks that one has to balance. What does Lars say about Ricardo's comment that Lula has a lot to juggle?
Don't we all?
Yeah, tell me about it.
Here, "don't we all" means we all have a lot of problems to juggle, don't we? Ricardo uses another idiomatic phrase for agreeing. Yeah, tell me about it. Now it's your turn to practice. Pat, whom you have met at an international conference, will ask you about the political situation in your country. Respond by talking about your country. Use real situations and real examples. Then you'll hear a follow-up question. This time, respond by being non-committal. For example, by saying, "It's hard to say," or "Honestly, there are many ways to look at it."
I'm a bit out of touch. So, what's the political situation like in your country right now? That sounds like a good thing.
How did you do? Let's listen to some example answers. Of course, your response will be different. These are just provided for reference.
I'm a bit out of touch. So, what's the political situation like in your country right now?
Well, we have a fairly liberal government in power at the moment. They're trying to reform healthcare policy.
That sounds like a good thing.
Well, obviously, it depends on your point of view.
Now it's your turn to ask a question. After the beep, Ask Pat about the political situation in Pat's country, France. Remember to soften your question by using such phrases as, "If you don't mind my asking," or "If it's okay to ask." Then after Pat responds, follow up by acknowledging, echoing, and responding.
Well, of course, with Sarkozy in charge, the government has made a big move to the right.
Now, listen to an example answer.
So if you don't mind me asking, how about France? I'm a bit out of touch. What is the political situation like these days?
Well, of course, with Sarkozy in charge, the government has made a big move to the right.
To the right. That's interesting.
It's good to go back and try the practices again. Try substituting different language to build up fluency. That's it for today's show. We've looked at a variety of ways to ask and respond to questions about politics. We've studied some ways to maintain harmony by using non-committal language. And we've explored ways to maintain interest in the conversation, and we learned some useful vocabulary and language. Go to our website at www.businessenglishpod.com to sign up for extensive online practice exercises, including listening activities, quizzes, and language development. Also, if you haven't already, you can sign up on the website to receive study notes for this and the other episodes, including full transcripts, vocabulary, and language review exercises. Thanks for listening.
Want to get more out of Business English Pod? Then go to www.businessenglishpod.com and sign up as a premium member. Premium members can access detailed study notes and the new Phrasecast to practice all the useful language we featured today. You're listening to Business English Pod, the Business English podcast for professionals on the move.
Business English Pod is turning 2, and to celebrate, we're giving away an iPhone each month to new premium members. All you have to do is purchase a 6 or 12-month premium membership during May or June of 2008. We'll hold a prize drawing each month, and the winner will receive a brand new iPhone. To learn more, visit www.businessenglishpod.com.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Gray, and I'll be your host for this lesson. In most parts of the world, having lunch or dinner together is an important part of doing business. In places such as North America, eating meals is a way of building a relationship or celebrating a partnership. And in other cultures, such as China, much of the real work of making deals actually often gets done over the dinner table. No matter where you are doing business, it's important to be able to handle the basics of dining out. This includes ordering food, recommending dishes, proposing a toast, and paying for the check, among other things. These skills will be the focus of this episode. In the listening, we continue to follow Mario and Francesca, who represent the Italian fashion company Viva, on their visit to the US. As planned, they are having dinner in Las Vegas with their distributor, Adriana, who works at the American company Foxtrot. Bill, one of their new customers, has also joined them. When the dialogue begins, the group has already made some small talk and looked at the menu. Now they are ready to order. As you listen, try to answer the following questions. As usual, we'll post the answers in a few days on our website, www.businessenglishpod.com. 1. Why doesn't Francesca want to try the steak tartare? 2. How does Francesca signal that she's ready to go back to the hotel? 3. Who pays for the meal?
Shall we order now?
Fine.
I can't make up my mind. What would you recommend?
Can I suggest the steak tartare? It's the specialty here.
What exactly is it?
It's finely chopped raw beef with egg. They marinate it in lime juice.
It sounds great, but I was actually hoping to try something a little lighter.
Have the yellowfin tuna then. It's delicious.
That sounds good.
Yes, the tuna's tasty too. Really, you can't go wrong. Everything is great.
Are you ready to order?
Yes. I'd like the house-smoked salmon and a tomato soup, please.
Smoked salmon, tomato soup. Got that.
Mario?
I'll have the Nebraska corn-fed sirloin steak.
Good choice.
I want to try some American beef.
How would you like that cooked, sir?
Medium rare, please.
Certainly, sir. And for you, madam?
Cheers. Here's to a successful partnership.
Cheers.
Salute.
This is very good. How's your tuna, Francesca?
Wonderful.
Could you pass the salt, please?
Here you are. Some more wine?
Thanks, I'd better not. I'm still a little jet-lagged.
Yes, it's getting late. We'd better let you get back to your hotel.
It's been such a lovely evening.
We really enjoyed it too.
Waiter, can I have the bill, please?
Let us pay for this.
No, I insist.
I thought we had a deal.
You guys can get the next one. You still have a few days in Las Vegas.
Well, only if you let us treat you next time.
Of course. We're looking forward to it.
Well, thank you for a most enjoyable evening.
Not at all. It was our pleasure.
The dinner sounds like it was a success, doesn't it? Let's go through the dialogue bit by bit to examine the language. How does it begin?
Shall we order now?
Fine.
I can't make up my mind. What would you recommend?
Adriana says, "Shall we order now?" to check if everyone is ready to talk to the waiter. There are also more phrases we can use, either to check whether other people have had enough time to look at the menu, or to signal that we are ready. Let's practice.
I think I've made up my mind.
I think I know what I'm going to have. What about you, Steve?
Is everybody ready to order, or do you need more time?
What happened next? Francesca says, "I can't make up my mind," and she asks Bill what he would recommend. Especially when we are guests, asking for a recommendation is both a great method for finding out what is good to eat and a polite way of making conversation. Listen to some more language for asking for a suggestion.
Everything looks great. I don't know what to have. What do you suggest?
Can you recommend a fish dish?
What kind of desserts are really good here?
What's the house specialty?
What is Bill's recommendation and what does Francesca think about it? Let's listen again.
Can I suggest the steak tartare? It's the specialty here.
What exactly is it?
It's finely chopped raw beef with egg. They marinate it in lime juice.
It sounds great, but I was actually hoping to try something a little lighter.
Francesca asks what exactly the steak tartare is, and Bill replies that it is finely chopped ground raw beef with egg. To chop is to cut something into pieces, and finely means very small. Raw is not cooked. As Bill points out, the dish is marinated in lime juice. Marinated means to put food, such as meat, into a sauce and to let it sit for a while so that it takes in or absorbs the flavour. How does Francesca feel about Bill's recommendation? To be polite, she says, "It sounds great." Then she says she was actually hoping to try something a little lighter. Raw beef with egg is a heavy dish. That is, it contains a lot of dark meat and fat. Lighter dishes are things like fish, chicken, or salad. In a future episode, we'll focus on more language for describing food. Now, let's get back to the dialogue. What happens next? Adriana recommends another dish for Francesca.
Have the yellowfin tuna then. It's delicious.
That sounds good.
Yes, the tuna's tasty too. Really, you can't go wrong. Everything is great.
Adriana tells Francesca to try the yellowfin tuna, which is a kind of fish. Bill says that it's also tasty, that is, delicious, and Francesca really can't go wrong, which means no matter what she orders, it will be good. Now that everyone is ready to talk to the waiter, what language do they actually use to order food?
Are you ready to order?
Yes, I'd like the house-smoked salmon and a tomato soup, please.
I'd like is one way to order. Notice that Adriana says the house-smoked salmon. We use the definite article the to refer to a specific dish on the menu. What's another way to order? Listen to Bill.
I'll have the Nebraska corn-fed sirloin steak.
Good choice.
I want to try some American beef.
How would you like that cooked, sir?
Medium rare, please.
As Bill shows us, another way to order is I'll have... What has Bill decided to eat? He wants the Nebraska corn-fed sirloin steak. Nebraska is a U.S. state famous for raising cows or cattle. Sirloin is a specific piece of beef that is very tender, that is, easy to cut and chew. Corn-fed refers to how the cattle were raised. They were fed only corn, which makes their meat tastier. Bill wants his meat cooked medium rare. Usually in English, there are 4 ways or grades for cooking meat. Rare means raw. Medium rare is slightly more cooked, but still red in the middle. Medium is cooked longer, usually pink in the middle. And well done is cooked all the way through. How does the dialogue continue? Mario proposes a toast.
Cheers. Here's to a successful partnership.
Cheers. Salute.
Proposing a toast, that is, drinking to something, is a very common way to celebrate. How does Mario toast the group? He says, "Here's to a successful partnership." There are several more expressions that are useful for toasting. Let's practice a couple more examples.
I'd like to propose a toast to Joanna and Sasha. They've worked so hard on this project. Here's to them.
Let's raise our glasses for all our colleagues who couldn't be here today. This was a team effort, and everybody deserves the credit.
Here's to your health.
Now everyone begins eating. How's the food? Francesca seems to like her fish, but what about Mario? It sounds like his steak isn't salty enough for his taste, doesn't it?
This is very good. How's your tuna, Francesca?
Wonderful.
Could you pass the salt, please?
Here you are.
Could you pass the is a polite way to ask for something on the table. As the dialogue ends, it's getting late and everybody has had a few glasses of wine. This is when we typically start a leaving dialogue to show politely that it's time to go home. Listen again.
Some more wine?
Thanks, I'd better not. I'm still a little jet-lagged.
Yes, it's getting late. We'd better let you get back to your hotel.
It's been such a lovely evening.
We really enjoyed it too.
Francesca gives a strong hint to her American hosts that she may be ready to leave. She says, "I'm still a little jet-lagged." Jet lag refers to feeling tired because of time differences. Adriana takes the hint. That is, she understands that Francesca might want to go home. She says, "We'd better let you get back to your hotel." Then Mario and Bill use some useful language for commenting on what an enjoyable evening it has been. All of these parts, giving a hint, taking the hint, and saying you had an enjoyable evening, are part of a typical leaving dialogue. Let's practice some more language we can use to get ready to say goodbye.
Is that the time? I had no idea it was so late.
I'm really enjoying myself, but I should probably get back to my hotel. I have a very early morning tomorrow.
Yes, I'm really enjoying this, but we'd probably better get going.
Oh dear, how'd it get so late? Let's get the check.
I had a wonderful time.
So did I. What an enjoyable evening.
Now there's only one thing left to do before everyone can go home. The group has to decide who is going to get the check. That is, pay for the bill. Let's listen to how they do that again.
Waiter, can I have the bill, please?
Let us pay for this.
No, I insist.
I thought we had a deal.
You guys can get the next one. You still have a few days in Las Vegas.
Well, only if you let us treat you next time.
Of course, we're looking forward to it.
After Adriana asks for the bill, Mario offers to pay. But Adriana is firm. She says, No, I insist. Mario says, I thought we had a deal, because earlier in BEP 89, he had said he wanted to pay for dinner. But as the main host, Adriana probably feels that she should pick up the check. Now, let's review the language we just learned for offering to pay.
This one's on me.
Let me get this.
I'll pick up the tab.
I'd like to get the check.
It's our treat.
You get the next one.
No, I insist.
How does the group finish off the dinner? Of course, at the end of the evening, the guests thank the hosts.
Well, thank you for a most enjoyable evening.
Not at all. It was our pleasure.
Let's review a few more expressions that we can use after dinner.
We had a wonderful time.
That was great. I'm looking forward to doing it again.
Thanks for a lovely evening.
Not at all. The pleasure's all mine.
Now it's your turn to practice. Imagine you are at dinner with some business partners. One of them will signal that it's time to order. After the beep, you should ask them for a recommendation. For example, you can say, Everything looks great. What would you recommend? Then, when the waiter asks for your order, request the dish that was recommended to you.
I think I know what I'm going to have. What about you? If I were you, I'd try the smoked salmon. It's delicious.
Hi, can I take your order? What would you like?
How did you do? Let's listen to an example answer.
I think I know what I'm going to have. What about you? I think I know what I'm going to have. What about you?
I don't know. Everything looks great. What would you recommend?
If I were you, I'd try the smoked salmon. It's delicious.
Hi, can I take your order? What would you like?
I'll have the smoked salmon, please.
Rewind and try the practice again to build speed and fluency. Now let's review some useful vocabulary. You'll hear a series of sentences. In each sentence, one word is blanked out with a beep. Repeat the sentence, but say the missing word. For example, if you hear,
Really, you can't go. Everything is great.
you will say, Really, you can't go wrong. Everything is great. After each exercise, the answer will be played.
You should really give the yellowfin a try. Answer. You should really give the yellowfin tuna a try.
The chicken here in a special sauce. Answer. They marinate the chicken here in a special sauce.
You've really got to try the house salmon. Answer: you've really got to try the house smoked salmon.
Please cook my steak thoroughly. I like it done. Answer: please cook my steak thoroughly. I like it well done.
Cheers. I'll to that. Answer: cheers. I'll drink to that.
That's all for this episode on Eating Out for Business. We've covered language for recommending dishes, ordering food, proposing a toast, and thanking everyone at the end of the meal. In future episodes, we'll take a closer look at more parts of the dining experience, including describing food. In the meanwhile, remember to check out the study notes for this and the other episodes. There you'll find review questions, complete transcripts, vocabulary definitions, and example sentences. Also, sign up at www.businessenglishpod.com for our online learning centre, which includes a wider range of language revision and extension exercises, flashcards, listening practice, and more. Thanks for listening.
Want to get more out of Business English Pod? Then go to www.businessenglishpod.com and sign up as a premium member. Premium members can access detailed study notes and the new Phrasecast to practice all the useful language we featured today.